Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me again this week on another episode of our discussion on having goals for 2021. I want to say a special thank you to everyone who listened, who watched our last presentation. For those who listened and for those who dropped their comments, I'd like to say I really appreciate the effort, the time you used in watching and listening and sharing and telling your friends about it. Say thank you, and I hope today's episode also is something interesting and instructive that will be worth your time. So last week we talked about the power of a single focus, and we said that it is good to have a goal, a single goal that you are pursuing, that you can channel all your energies and resources to in this 2021. And by so doing, we are sure that we'll have successes. And in continuation of that, today I want to talk about writing down that goal. Now we've set the goal, it is time to write it down. I recall that sometime in 2020, I had a discussion with someone. I was talking to a friend and I said XYZ. In the course of our discussion, less than 30 minutes during our discussion, she repeated to me what I said and it was different. She said, "You said this." And I said, "No, I didn't say that." I also recall in 2011 precisely, I think sometime in maybe August, October, I was on a course. So we had a communications kind of a seminar. And the facilitator, we were about 152 in total, and we were all seated in rows and columns. So he whispers something to the first guy on the row and tells him to whisper it to the next person. Just it kept going. By the time we got to the last person, he now asks randomly, "What were you told?" Someone says, "He said that the payment is today." Another person says, "Not another day, but today." Another one says, "Graduation is next week." And so he calls the first person and says, "What did I tell you?" He said, "The color is red." Within a short few minutes of telling someone something and getting to the last person in the same auditorium, what was said to the first person and what the last person heard and the people in between were all lost in translation. So the story reminds me of Adam and Eve. I remember in Genesis chapter 2, God said to Adam, "You shall not eat." That's in Genesis 2:17. You see, "You shall not eat of the tree of the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden." And then in Genesis chapter 3, precisely verse 3. So when Eve was talking with the serpent, she said that God has said, "You should not eat of the tree of the garden, and you should not even touch it." But if you recall that in Genesis chapter 2, what God said to Adam was, "Don't eat it." Or what Adam told Eve after God made Eve was, "Don't touch, don't eat, don't even touch." It means that the communication was lost. And what brought me to this thinking was that I read a story of a friend, Amadio Sayamari. He is a medical doctor in the United States of America, and he talked about that all Adam and Eve had was the "it is written" that God gave to Adam. And then I started thinking, did God really write it for them? And it occurred to me that God never wrote the laws, the commandments for Adam. He just told Adam, "Do not eat this." And Adam did not have any point of reference. So Adam told Eve what he thinks was right, which is, "Don't eat, don't touch." The message was lost in the process. And we know that in a typical African tradition, there's what we call the oral tradition, which means that somehow Africa did not have a good documented history. And so most of the history were handed on by oral tradition. So a father tells his son something, and the son commits that to memory and tells his own children. And that is why you see a lot of African history has been lost because there is so much the human brain has a capacity to keep for a time without either adulterating, adjusting, tampering, or doing anything with it. And same thing goes with our visions and goals. That when you set a goal or you set a vision and you have it in your heart, it's good enough to be conceived in the realm of the heart. But it's more important also to put it down. Because in all fairness, what is not written does not exist. What is not written does not exist. Never forget that. That what is never written does not exist. So in 2021, not only would we conceive our goals, but we would write them down. You see, after the issues of Adam and Eve, what did God do when He was to bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? In Mount Sinai, He personally wrote the Ten Commandments with His hands and delivered to Moses. Because at this time, it is now important to realize that leaving people to do things from the commitment of their memory does not have a lasting effect as writing it down. So the law has to be written. So in Jeremiah, God says, I will write my laws in their hearts because it is important to write it down. It is important to write it down. So in Habakkuk, he says, write the vision, put it down on paper. Put it down on paper, write it down, write it down. Don't just have it in your mind. Don't say, okay, I have these things I have to do in 2021. I'll do X, Y, Z. You see, you will forget some along the way. And when you write things down, it's easy for quick reference. You can quickly reference it and you can use it and it becomes measurable. So if you have those goals written down, you can say, okay, I was to do X, Y, Z and so time and I haven't done that. You can take that and measure it. And when you write it, it's easy for you to see it. Either every day, every week, just put it where you can see your vision, your plan for 2021. Not just in 2021, but in all year. But we're using this one for this year. Let's see how this year becomes better than the previous years. You know, sometimes we've done things the same way for so many years and we've had the same results. So this 2021 is a time to do a complete 360 turn. A 180 turn. When you do a 180 turn, facing the other direction. And we are hoping that the things we learn from God's words, which are written to guide us for everyday living, for everyday success in life, will be able to help us achieve the success we desire in 2021. So until I see you again next time, remember, conceive a goal. That's one that was spoke about last week. This week, write it down. Write it down. Don't leave it for speculations. Don't leave it for misinterpretations. Don't write it down for quick references. Write it down as a constant reminder because we should not forget whatever is not written does not exist. Whatever is not written is lost in translation and open for misrepresentation. But when it is written, it's easy to make it as a point of reference and say, this is what I wrote, this is what I want, and this is what I intend to achieve in 2021. Stay strong and stay blessed. See you again next week.